Welcome to Making Your Miles Count Production, an educational program to all Canadian lease owner-operators with your host, Robert Scaper.
Well, welcome to the Making Your Miles Count podcast again. Today we have something I think is special. We had a lot of fun a little while ago going to Truck World, and we have Peter Funk and Dan Scaper, my brother. And we were there for 3 days?
Yep.
And we looked an awful lot about everything. Well, you guys looked at everything. I was at my booth all the time, just talking to hundreds of drivers and the like. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a look. You guys walk through. First of all, you've never been to a Truck World before, have you ever?
No.
Nothing. So it's the first time for you guys, and what we really want to do is we want to give a little bit of a sense to drivers or operators out there. What exactly do you see, and is there any kind of benefit of going there, that kind of thing? We'll express some of the things that we saw, and some of the things that we thought were very important and the like. And so you guys basically walked around, and it's how many square footage is it? It'd be probably
oh my word,
a lot, 300,000 square feet.
More than that.
Oh yeah,
so?
it'd be more than
More
that.
than that. Yeah, I'd say that'd be over 1 million.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
Okay, lots of 20-foot ceilings in there, all
Yeah,
brand
'cause
new
they had-
highway tractors in there, all
they
chromed
had
up trailers.
One building, they had 10, 15 highway tractors for sure. The other one, half a dozen. So and then trailers, anything commercial appropriate, whatever.
We were our booth was right beside Supply Post, which is another a magazine in mostly in Western Canada, but or so. And then we have and then right beside them was
Over the road.
Over the Road magazine. Yeah. You had a big one. Walking through that area is a huge endeavor. Were your feet sore?
No, that's
No,
bad.
mine
No,
was.
they were-
Yeah,
Then
my
again,
back was sore from
Your back
Yeah.
was sore.
Yeah.
My feet and back were terribly sore. In fact, I never moved away from the booth at all. All I was doing is just standing and talking. And a lot of people have chairs or whatever, but I walked right into the aisle and talked to drivers right and pulled them in.
But there was very few places to sit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's when my feet and back were just killing me. I
can
absolutely exhausting.
I can understand that. I was trying to tell my wife, like I seen you in your element. Like
Yeah.
You were, and I don't know if you guys ever,
driver.
if the drivers have ever watched these short YouTube reels or whatever, where these lions are waiting in the bush, waiting for this animal to come by. I could see Rob. He's talking to one driver, and he out of the corner of his eye. Oh, there's another one. There's another one. Can I? No, I got to stick with this guy.
Attack mode. It is yes. Is it attack? I just like to talk to them.
No.
It's
the
awesome.
attack part is wrong.
Yeah,
but it's that similarity.
But it is definitely that. Yeah. And then you get the occasional one where he's really nice. I had a guy actually come out specially to Truck World just to see me.
Yeah.
And he picked the time where there was unbelievable traffic for truck drivers, and I'm saying, you know what? I'm going to spend my time here just talking to this guy.
Yeah.
And the like. But I probably missed a good 60 or 70 guys, to talk to or so. But because to actually talk to somebody about, accounting, holy cow, that's boring. Compared to whatever you guys were looking at or whatever, oh my goodness sakes! Like who in the right mind would say, "Hey, there's an accountant. Let's go talk to him."
Yeah, but that's what was the nice thing. That belonged there. It's part of trucking, right?
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. Very important.
Yeah, I think us as drivers, we get very focused on all the bells and lights and shiny this and new that, and Accounting? No. That's what I get away from my office for. That's why I have a steering wheel.
There was different types of people there. You had different colors. So if you were an owner operator, you were green. Mm-hmm. If you were a fleet or a fleet manager or something, like I think it was red, and then there was some that were orange and stuff like this. And so our target was, I just wanted to talk to owner operators. That's all. So all I'm looking for is just green
tags.
And I see somebody green, I can walk right up and I know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to an owner operator. Yeah. Now, sometimes people take their tag and they flip it around. There's a lot of them. I bet you there's 30% of them that flipped it around.
So
you didn't see it. And the reason is drivers don't want to be scanned.
Yeah.
Because the minute you're scanned, you get spam on everything.
Well,
oh, shoot.
Yeah.
And I don't blame people for flipping it around.
Right.
Yeah. But just as an exhibitor to go to Truck World, I sign up. I put everything together and basically pay the fee to go there. All of a sudden, I'm inundated with emails about, do you want to buy the names of these list of people? Buy the names of the list. Buy everybody's name. And why exactly would I buy the names of all the other exhibitors? I mean, I could go online and as an exhibitor, it shows you everybody who's there. You know.
Yeah.
And but the spam that you get is awful, just terrible. Yeah. And so, you work through that, then you actually get there. And if they scan you, you're just spam again. Yep. And that is a terrible thing.
But you got to look at it from their point of view too. They're there to sell a product. Yeah. And so when they get your name,
it's unfortunate. Now, my name and my email address is publicly out there. I mean, I've been writing for Over the Road magazine for over 14 years. I get all sorts of spam and stuff like this, but it's like a tsunami whenever I go to Truck World. Everybody and I got a call from somebody just a couple of days ago. Yes, I'm your representative. I'm here. I want to make sure that everything is going okay, and I'm from such and such a company. And I thought, what in the world? He's he's your. And I thought, who is this? So I had to Google the company, and they provided something. But I don't use them. I've never contacted them before. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Suddenly I have a rep. And it was an answer. It was on my answering machine, and I thought, they're getting so incredibly obnoxious. That's one thing that I hate. I was going to do a podcast once on the things that I hate. I hate spam. I hate spam and that. And I am determined. We have our own app, obviously. And but I am determined never to fall into the category, if at all possible, to be spam. Yeah. I'm not gonna advertise just for the sake of hey, here's a list of 50,000 truck drivers. Are you going to use it? No, because realistically, I don't ever want to be in that category. And maybe it's because I hate it so much, and I like privacy more than anything. Mm-hmm.
Well, even at a lot of the booths, what you weren't even interested in, I just covered up my because the first thing they wanted to do was scan you. Well, I'm not really interested in your product. I'm looking at your what you have here. But, then I just cover up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that is something that we're in the information age, and stuff, and that is the problem. If anybody gets your name, just. Yeah. Take a hike, please. Don't just leave me alone, But I mean, it is business, and
sales and marketing are part of business. It's something you can't get rid of, but you want to keep that connection with your client to the point where you want to talk to them as opposed to again another one. Yeah. Even if I wanted, I won't pick you now because
well, you just get harassed.
Exactly. Yeah. I remember one guy came into our office. This is probably 15 years ago, and he says, "I'm from the fire something to do with safety or something like, and so for fire extinguishers and emergency kits and stuff like this. And he says, you're in violation of this and that and the other. And I go, what? He says, yeah, the local ordinance says this, and you need this and this. Like, I mean, we're an accounting firm, okay? We don't have any, we have bright ideas, and that's pretty much it.
Like, and you don't want to stifle them.
Yeah, you don't want to stifle them, but why would we need a fire extinguisher? Well, okay, and so I look it all up, and he says, okay, we're going to sell you this. I says, listen, if you come to me, you need me more than I need you. Yeah. So I just went to Canadian Tire, got what I needed to do, and put it there. But I will not buy from a traveling salesman, primarily because I don't want that guy here every month telling me this and that and the other. Oh, it's just terrible. And it's for myself. I'm trying to, provide a service to the truckers and stuff like this, and it's a fine line. I like the idea. I like. Like I'm a lion, pouncing. But that's one-on-one, face-to-face.
Yes,
and it's not digital.
Yeah,
that's not offensive,
right?
In my opinion.
Yeah, and
some people might have no thanks. And walk away.
Well, but that gives you the option to say no thanks.
Yeah.
If there's spam, you don't even, like you said before, even unsubscribe or don't or whatever. It doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop. That unsubscribes click, doesn't do anything.
No.
Button.
So giving you the option to say no thank you is a free will and right also.
And sometimes when you just show a little bit of interest, and away you go.
And you can't do it. Yeah, I know. I enjoy talking to truck drivers about accounting and taxes because that's the only thing I really know. You guys know a whole bunch of other things. I know one thing. Well, that's it. But I enjoy that's my thing. And people can tell when you really are enthusiastic about something. Yeah. And so the vast majority of people get enthusiastic about it too. If somebody who was really enthusiastic about cutting up green peppers, you'd be looking good.
Never thought
their
of it that
excitement
way, right?
rubs off on you, And so that's the only thing I get excited about. Almost, maybe technology a little bit, and see what. So, like some of the stuff that we have here, some of it I like. I like the camera stuff. I mean, maybe that we're about to talk to, but I mean, that excitement does rub off, but some people, you could by the end of the day, you get tired people, and that's okay, So, but anyway, that's our rant on spam, but for sure. So, I was there at the booth, and I hardly got out to anyone. I think I maybe got 3 or 4 booths that I talked to. Out of the whatever it was, 2,500, 3,000 booths in there, something like that. It's just insane. Maybe not that much. Maybe it was only 1,000. I don't know. It seems that big.
It was a lot.
It was an awful lot.
It was an awful lot. Yeah.
It's very. I love the atmosphere. I love the people. There's a lot of excitement there. But I was absolutely exhausted. My feet, my back. In other words, I pushed myself so much that by Saturday night, I was not just exhausted, I got sick. Like really sick. Yeah. And I just made it to 5 or 6. Then we went out to eat with the whole group. We had 8 people. 8 people at a booth there. I think we were only allowed 5. And then we brought in extras or whatever, but most everybody was traveling around. We had 2 tech guys, and all their job was looking for tech out there and what's happening, what's not happening. Good, a lot of really good leads and information and what the industry was doing and stuff like this. But after the meal that we had there, that was it. I was supposed to stay Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday yet, and I just said, that's it. So we
going home.
It's very exhausting.
It is.
Yeah.
Very tiring.
Yeah. So, but anyway, okay. So that's pretty much where our experience going there, or so. What were some of the things that you looked at and you said, "Man, I really enjoyed this." What's your number one thing that you?
Well, there was a number of them, but The one was the space, the nut for your axles.
Oh yes, okay.
When you take your hub off, the nut that holds the hub on, there's 3 pieces to it, and you have to have a torque wrench to get that nut the right tightness. Well, with this nut, it's a 2-piece slip nut that you put on there. Once you got your seal and everything, your bearings in there, put the nut on, and you tighten it till it's kind of like a slack adjuster. When you turn a slack adjuster in reverse, it's hard, and it you have to force it. Yeah. Well, this thing does the same thing. So when you put it on and it makes that noise, then you mark the top, and then you turn it 5 times around. Spin your hub, turn it one more round, spin your hub, and that's the only thing that you need to put on there. You don't need to put the safety clip on there or nothing. Yeah. That itself holds it, and as the bearing over time wears a bit, that nut will actually tighten itself. It's a really, really cool idea, especially somebody that does their own work, or even for a shop. Brad was telling me how much time it actually saves a mechanic on each wheel, and it's substantial. Yeah. Sure. And I know there was a company that was there, the safety guys, and one of the guys from the shop, the manager of their trailer shop, and they were immediately sold on this. And I was kind of watching how they were reacting.
Is it a new invention?
It's totally new. Wow. They just came out with it. And they only make it for trailers right now. Next year, he said they'll have it for trucks. And I've been really interested in changing my own wheel seals. I am. Because I do a lot of my own work, this would just make it so much easier and faster and safe. Yeah. And the nut can physically not come off.
Yeah, it's got sort of like a sawtooth piece on there that it almost gives the idea of a ratchet.
Yep.
And because it's got that spring, the way I understood it is you can't over tighten it.
Nope.
Because otherwise, like you said, you have to torque it to a certain spec and whatever, and then torque that nut the old way or whatever. And you can't and you can over. In that way you can over tighten it.
Oh, absolutely. Or under tighten it. But with this one, if you follow that like 5 times, and then he put the socket on after the 5th time, and he turned that nut around and around and around, and it didn't tighten up anymore. Oh, yeah. You cannot physically over tighten that nut.
Yeah.
And he saves on wheel seals, because what happens is when your bearing starts to wear, that's when the wheel seals go.
Yeah.
And so here with this one, keeping it tight all the time.
Yeah.
Is there like a spring in there or something?
No, it's just teeth, and the teeth kind of slip over. You have to force it backwards to get the nut off. Yeah. Once you got it past the restriction, then you can just spin it off. And then when you have the nut, it's a 2-piece nut. The inside one just spins.
But I think there is a spring in there that keeps a certain. That's what it's designed to. Keep a steady pressure on that wheel, your bearings.
Correct.
Yeah. So
I would assume it's all sealed, right?
It's all sealed.
Yeah. Because in slush and rust.
Oh yeah, that's all covered.
The other stuff covered.
But that all gets covered, like, because your axle slides back in and covers over top of it. Okay. So that's all sealed. You can't get moisture inside there.
It's all inside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, but it sounds like a relatively simple fix. But why didn't somebody think about this 20 years ago? You know,
we say that every year.
Yeah,
right? But this just absolutely that was my highlight for the whole thing. Yeah. And Dave's Diesel.
Oh yeah. Okay, you guys both like Dave's Diesel.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You must have spent quite a bit of time. We have a big stack
we spent lots of time.
Yeah.
So what does Dave's Diesel do?
I'll let down.
Well, first of all, I'm not super mechanic, but I know I have to deal with everything engine related, and I'd give him a description of what I had, and he knew exactly almost every part that's in my motor, more than I do. And he could say, oh yeah, this we can service this.
Dave's diesel. So Dave was there.
Yeah,
Or
his boys.
Oh, his boys. Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought his name was that guy's name, not Dave. That weird.
No, he was the representative of the.
Because that's a lot of information. If you start talking what your engine is, and suddenly they go, this part number, that part. These guys know what they're talking about.
He would just carry on from my Detroit to and the Cummins is you got this, and then I'm just going, wow.
Yeah.
You know, I know how far it is from Fargo to North.
They dealt specifically with injectors of all motors, turbos, Canadian-made turbos.
Yeah.
Much stronger metal, better metal than what you normally buy. Most of the turbos come from China.
Yeah.
So injectors, turbos, and heads, valves. The heads, they still come from China, but I found out one thing: you can buy a cheap head, and this is where things are going to change down the road for me. When you go to a shop and you tell them you want Cummins parts, let's say you have like mine is a Cummins, you want Cummins parts. Well, what we found out from Dave's is there's many levels of heads. You can get a $600 head. You can get a $5,000 head.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
And so now you get a shop, they want to make some extra money, so they'll put a $500 head on your truck and charge you for the $5,000 one. Mm. And you don't know the difference until down the road.
Yeah.
All of a sudden your valve guides are wearing out. Well, why is that happening already? Mm-hmm. And so they dealt strictly with those three. And from now on, if my turbo goes, I will take a week off of work and send him my turbo because they rebuild them with Canadian-made parts. Yeah. And injectors, the same thing. He was saying that when you get your engine done at a shop, any shop, Cummins, Cat, doesn't matter, they will send them in, let's say, to Winnipeg, where we are in the vicinity. Yeah. They say they pressure tested them. Mm-hmm. They do put them under pressure, but they change the spring and the outside seals. They do nothing on the internal. No. And these guys here at Dave's, if you send them, you purulate them down. They work on them one day, they purulate them back. So they're gone 3 days. Oh, yeah. And they will actually replace the nozzle because it's the nozzle that creates the spray.
That's spray,
yeah. And so if you don't change the nozzle, if you got 1 million miles on it or 1.5 million miles, it doesn't spray like it does from factory. Yeah. So for half of the price of a new one, they will rebuild your whole injector. Yeah. Because the casing itself doesn't wear out. No. It just sits there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and the turbos is the same thing. Heads is the same thing.
How much is a turbo for yours?
$5,500.
$5,500. Oh, so it's not like you can keep a spare one in your bunk.
No.
Yeah, that's and it makes a big difference then too. Like if it's $5,500 for a turbo, you want to make sure that you're not looking at that more than once or twice in your life cycle of your truck.
Well, when I blew my turbo last year, the guy that brought me the new turbo, he said with the turbo that I have, it was a very variable speed because of the EGR. Mm-hmm. They're variable speeds. They need to be replaced every 3 years.
Oy vey.
So to replace it is $5,500, and there's no core. There's no core charge.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it's just straight cost.
Yeah. So if I take my turbo off, and I can do that myself, take my turbo off and send it into Dave's, they'll rebuild it for half the price of another one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And basically what you're not getting a new turbo, you're getting a reman turbo. Yeah. So who knows where those parts came from. But having spent the time with these guys, with Dave's Diesel, those guys were super knowledgeable in all of their stuff. This guy knew everything about every injector, turbo, heads. And so I now have a personal contact with him. Mm. And so I just call him up and say, hey, my mechanic's taking the injectors out. I'm going to fire them off to you. Can you get them done? Yeah. They know they're coming. And so it saves you a lot of money. Like I talked to another driver yesterday, super suspicious about his shop, and they're cutting corners and charging you for it. And so educating yourself on some of those high-tech issues, even ECMs, send the ECM in, they'll reprogram and rebuild it, whatever, and send it back to you.
The price of the parts have gone ridiculously through the roof.
Right.
Like if you go to a regular, either a dealer or dealers like.
See, I've got
unfortunate, but whether it's in a highway tractor or whether you're buying a car or whatever, dealership maintenance is really becoming ridiculous.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, like it is.
Yeah, I still have the old Detroit, and I just had that rebuilt 3 years ago. With all the extra stuff, it still cost me $28,000, and but that's with quite a few extras I put on there. I had a friend of mine. He just rebuilt an engine. His truck isn't that old. The head was starting to leak, and he had put a lot of miles on there, and he got it done at the shop just out of town here, which is a good shop. They do a good job, but he still put $58,000 into it.
Yeah,
it's like.
That must be a cat.
I remember when it was $11,000.
Yeah,
like I did my engine for $11,000.
You could do a Detroit for $9,000.
Yeah. See, mine has gone up.
I've ripped off.
No,
I paid 11.
The very first time I rebuilt mine was in the shop in town here with a guy that I know, and he put in all original. It cost me $15,000.
Oh yeah,
and now it cost me $28,000.
Mine cost $53,000.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. So and from what I understand, it's just all these new engines with the stuff. The tolerances are so tight, and the prices just go up. Like my cylinders, my piston does this still. It's not but I don't get the same performance that these newer engines do. Like these newer engines, they'll get fuel mileage.
Yeah.
They're better burning. They're cleaner burning. I'm not arguing a lot of the technology that these new engines have. I wish it was newer and less expensive.
But they do not have the longevity that the older ones do.
That's correct. Yeah. And whatever they're putting into it, you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And like you said, your turbo, $5,000. Well, I don't think I had. I think I paid a little extra for mine, but I think I paid 11 or 12 for mine.
Yeah, I was just going to say 15. I can put one like that on, but because of the year of my engine,
with the emissions, you got
no shop will sell me one.
Oh yeah,
right.
Aftermarket, but even fuel pumps. Like for my engine, all the parts are more money than his. Fuel pump.
What year difference? You're 1999. You're
05.
05. Oh man,
so
that's only 6 years.
6 years.
But my fuel pump on my truck was $7,500.
Oh wow.
So if I take my fuel pump off, which I can do myself, I can send it to Dave's. They'll rebuild it for $2,500.
Oh wow.
Wow. I'll send it back.
Yeah.
So all these little things, like what I learned there was just absolutely priceless.
Yeah.
You can't put value on that.
Gets you excited for the future, because you know that I don't have to.
You've got
shovel
options.
out a whole bunch. Yeah, you got options.
See, the thing is, it used to be, and there's still a point. You know, you can either put a new one on and get your truck rolling again, because the revenue is huge nowadays. You got to keep that machine rolling.
Yep.
But if you can send it away and spend a third of the time or a third of the money, okay? Yeah, technically, let's say you get a week down. Well, let's say it's an extra couple days home that you normally do. Say call it a time off, right? But you still cut your expenses in third,
and now you know what you have.
And you've technically you've upgraded. It sounded
money
like
saved is money earned. That's absolutely, like and there is a balance somewhere. But realistically, the more a person is out of debt, the more options you have. You can park it a little bit longer and be able to save it. And and in the long run, you make more money out of it. And, but it's if you're tailgating your expenses so much that you have no margin, well, then time is way more valuable than it is.
But you're always at the mercy of the next guy. Always. And I trust them less and less. Like from now on,
like mechanics.
From now on, I will order the parts for my truck.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the major components.
I wonder what the net effect that would have. You have to find a mechanic that would be okay with you doing that. Not every shop does that, because there's some shops says, wait a minute.
There's
if you bring all of the parts in here, well, we're not warranting any of the work.
Well, they don't have to, because Dave's will warranty that.
Well, I know, but the work itself, like if if they put a bolt upside down or whatever, something like that, you will have.
I don't think they would do that. I think they're more reputable than that.
Well, it depends. It depends. There, like a lot of I shouldn't say dealerships, but even offset. Other ones will say, because they make margin on the parts and the labor, right? Obviously. And if all of a sudden they are giving up
part of the margins,
margins on the parts, then all they're looking at is labor. Well, you suddenly maybe drop in priority, and you're not going to get number one service compared to someone else.
But there's not even 1% of the people that will do that.
No,
a quarter. Like I would be the oddball on this one. Like from the whole shop, all this stuff. I would be the oddball.
Oh yeah.
But if more and more people do this, like an owner operator says, because we've had some we've had some people on here talking about maintenance, and there's a fair bit of I bet you I got maybe about 15% of our clients do a fair bit of work. They have the shop at home, or they do a lot of work on their own. That is a lot. That's we're talking several dozen guys doing it. And if they buy their own parts for it, like we had can't remember what its name. We called him the maintenance goat. We had 2 hours talking about maintenance. Me and him, or whatever. He's a good podcast. We had there's a fair bit of guys like that who do it like you're doing. And if more and more people do that, because saving money is sometimes, or is oftentimes, just as valuable as making money. And if people say, you know what, I like the mechanics, I like the grease, I'm okay, I'm going to start learning some of this stuff. And so if it moves from 10-15% of the people up to 30 to 40%, what does it do to the shops? The shops are going to say, wait a minute, now we're not getting anything on the parts anymore. And they're having trouble keeping maintenance people already in there. As soon as they get their seal, they often open their own shop, kind of a thing,
Well, I think the shop where I go, I buy most of my parts through them. And so they're used to that already. I've done that for years.
Yeah, but you've had a relationship with them for 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they know you back and forth.
Yeah, and I pay my bills.
That's a big factor. That's a big... You go on payments, you're in a different category.
Correct. Yeah. And so I don't bring my truck there for very, very much. And they know that. They respect me for that. And I'm only like 0.25% of the guys that'll do that. But so they don't really mind. Now, if I would come in there with, let's say I have my own head or my own injectors, ask them to put them in, I would go see another guy that I deal with sometimes. He does that kind of work, and so I would just use him, and he wouldn't have a problem with that.
What would be the rate difference per hour?
The rate difference per hour is not big, but he doesn't have the amount of work that a normal shop does.
Oh, okay.
So he's But he does very good work.
Basically what you're doing is you're taking it from a multi-stand shop
Correct.
to a single
Correct.
guy who specializes.
Correct.
And I know the company I drive for, there's a mechanic. He used to come in and do maintenance. He had his own rolling truck and hoist, and he did everything. They officially hired him, and he's in the shop. And if there's anything major that goes wrong with my truck, I will get him to do it. Because
Right.
I've talked to him over the years, and anytime anything is wrong, and they've been troubleshooting computers, and it's just like, what? You're younger than I am. How do you know that much stuff?
Yeah.
You know, and he tells you, that's got to be torqued to this, and every time I see him, he's also got his spec book out. He's going through it. You've seen the papers are all greased, and he's gone through it before, and that just that visual assurance is something huge as far as me as a driver. He knows what he's doing.
Working with people who really know what they're doing, that's exciting.
It is.
It's thrilling.
And talking to the guys too, you got that problem. I think I had, and it's not just a job for them. That's what they love. It's a passion.
As opposed to getting is something happen out on the road in the middle of nowhere, and then you talk to the guy who's supposed to be doing something, and he goes, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to talk to somebody about that. And you realize this guy knows nothing about it. Doesn't even know how to put on a filter kind of a thing, and what do you mean? You should wet it down first? Oh, really? like some people know nothing. They'll hire, just to do an oil change and a grease, or they should, you don't need to be a red seal guy to do that, right? Yeah. Obviously.
Well, when I blew my turbo in Tennessee last year, I had the turbo off. Yeah, everything was off except the water line, and because mine cools with antifreeze. Yours doesn't.
Right.
And so I didn't have any buckets to put the antifreeze in, so I had it. But the exhaust, everything was off. The guy comes here with a new turbo, and he looks, says, "Who did this?" I said, "I did." Oh. All he had to do was drain the antifreeze, and so we visited while the antifreeze is draining, and he took the line off and put the new turbo on. I think he was there like half an hour, 45 minutes. Then most of it was talking.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. Like we could probably be on Dave's Diesel for quite a while. Let's move to maybe some other one. Yeah. Or was there anything else that they, like you mentioned, heads, injectors, turbos?
Yep.
What other stuff does he?
That's basically what they specialize in.
That's all. Probably other few other things here and there.
Yeah.
But okay, the major things.
And the way I understand it, they will go as little or as much as you want. Like they can supply anything and everything, or if you just want one item, they're really flexible, and they'll walk you through whatever you.
But they're actually a manufacturing shop where they build their stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, well that's cool.
Yeah.
Even as an accountant, I get asked mechanical questions all the time. Maybe it's because I was driving, but I remember a number of years ago, a guy says, "Well, you know what? I'm getting my engine rebuilt. Should I get my injectors changed as well?" Well, you're talking to an accountant here. Not exactly.
No, don't.
My answer would probably be no, because it costs $3,000,
Yeah.
But I shouldn't be running those numbers. I shouldn't be answering those questions. I don't know if I did or not.
But just to say that, when you mention injectors, the reason that they do the inside of the injector is because I asked him, I said, why is it that when guys rebuild their engines, they put reman injectors in, and then they have nothing but trouble with injectors? And he said, that's because they pressure test them, and they spray okay under pressure.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't change what's inside. So now when you got a new engine and you put the old the reman injectors in there, now they fail because they haven't been rebuilt. So if you would buy a brand new injector, which they're very expensive, you wouldn't have that problem.
Yeah, and the way I understood him explain that was because on a pressure test, everything works great. On a new rebuild, the back pressure, you've now more than doubled your back pressure from the cylinder.
Correct.
And the back pressure is what messes up with all your spraying. And I don't think they test for that.
No,
and that's why they change the interior, the linings or whatever you.
Yeah, because he said they're the only shop, they're the only place in Canada that rebuilds injectors. Or actually pressure tests injectors.
Yeah.
Sure. And he said, we don't just pressure test for pressure, but for the spray.
Yeah. See, and I know I've had my injectors tested a couple times in Winnipeg, and I've been very wary because it seems like they just all come back fail. Like I'm going, is this just a scam or like I'm where do you go? And I'm still a little caught. I'm pretty sure when I'm driving down the road, I know when an injector is not spraying. Like you start pulling a hill, just everything seems sluggish. No, it's not the wind. It's not this. It's not that. It's not that. Whatever. All of a sudden it's just not the same. It's just not that. And it may be only 3% of your performance that you're losing. But after 1 million miles behind the steering wheel, you start noticing 1-2%. Like it's not right. You can't put your finger on exactly, right?
Yeah.
But you start getting this gut feeling, and
something's wrong.
Yeah, time to spend money.
Well, there was. I remember this was a number of years ago. There was a change in how injectors. It used to be that they shot diesel in, and then they changed to spraying.
Yep.
And the feedback I was getting from some of my clients, the reason why they were spraying it is so that it doesn't create hot spots in the engine.
Yeah.
But you get better fuel mileage if it's shot rather than sprayed. That's what I was told.
No. You wanted to mist over the piston.
It didn't make sense to me. Yeah. But they said, okay, before redoing the injectors, I was getting this. Now I'm getting this, and the only difference was the shot versus spraying.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I remember thinking, goodness sakes,
that doesn't.
Because I looked at my pistons when they did my motor.
Mm-hmm.
I specifically looked at the head of the piston, and you can see if there's hot spots, so you can tell how the injector is spraying. My piston was just a little bit black on the top, little bit, but it was all around. And I've seen it before where one part of that piston is black, and the rest is clean.
Yeah.
So it tells you that the spray is not right.
Yeah.
But
maybe it was something else that they were doing with the injectors or whatever, but the individual said they felt less power.
Yeah.
And they got less fuel economy. But
I don't know if you can change that on a. The only way it'll change on the spray is if the injector the tip is worn, or well, it can't be clogged because there's too much pressure, but basically worn, so it'll start shooting different.
But they were all like before. He somehow or other, why he did them all, he didn't know. It was he was rebuilding the whole engine. Now I remember, and then he had the choice. Maybe that was it, because it was the whole engine.
Yeah.
Then it might have been associated with that. Boy, my recall only comes a little bit slower than normal. But it was an entire engine rebuild. Then he sort of flipped the coin and says, "Should I get
injectors?"
No. He did the whole engine, and then he had 6 months later he had problems with an injector, and then he says, "Should I do them all?" I shrugged my shoulders. I didn't give an answer or whatever. And so he did them all. And then he says he couldn't get the shooting ones. He got the spraying ones because he had the age of the engine. When he bought it, it was the spraying kind.
Yeah.
And so he had information before
they have different nozzles. They have different nozzles at the end.
Yeah. So then it was just that one aspect. Like after the engine rebuilt, he had good power and everything like this. But then when he just did the injectors, that was the one thing that was there. Now it could have been something else. Maybe
I'm wondering. Just talking about this now, my engine has always done bad on fuel. Right from factory. And I am wondering, because I thought after I would rebuild it, it would do better. It changed nothing. So I'm wondering if I don't have the wrong injectors in there. I'm going to check that.
It's a very expensive.
I'm not going to just pull them out. I'm going to find out.
Yeah,
I'm going to find out.
Maybe.
Yeah, because you don't.
Now this is just one story.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be good to get a mechanic to say, you know, that's not possible. Has to be something else.
Yeah. Right.
You know, or
we're
like
not mechanics, but
oh wow, it's very, very unusual. That's the only when it comes to the injectors. I remember that one story: spraying versus shooting versus spraying. And
so they would.
It makes sense to spray.
It does. Yeah.
But whatever.
Yeah. It could be the nozzles. There's different nozzles. That I didn't ask these guys if there was different types of injectors that you get for that same engine.
I know. I've heard of guys saying you can get different injectors for the same engine.
I have this guy's card from the show.
Yeah.
I'm going to give that guy a call.
Because I know there was one guy, one mechanic I was talking to, and he was talking 80% over my head, but he said in tuning, if you really want to go horsepower, you don't have to change anything except your injectors. And I said, what do you mean? Yeah, he says, well, you buy these larger volume injectors and then you tune it down. You can tune the injector down somehow or something.
Yeah, they're electronic.
Yeah. So I'm going, oh, I didn't know there was a variation in that.
Yeah.
I thought it was all computer. Well, yeah, the computer has to know what injector it has and it all has to work together. I'm okay.
And having said that,
yeah.
I bought a computer that I found out about that took the from the ECM. It was between the ECM and your injectors. So this little computer would read what the ECM was telling the injector, the not the amount of fuel, but the length it stayed open. The timing. And so it would take that, and you could set it, that little computer. And so, but the guy told me when I bought it, you set it at 12 o'clock. That's the best performance. My fuel mileage went up 2.5 miles to the gallon. Instantly.
Yeah.
I was running about 4.5 to 5 miles to the gallon. When I put that thing on, I was doing 8 and 9.
Wow.
But that computer quit on me. They are banned in North America.
What?
They are banned in North America.
How can they ban something that's so good?
This thing, just by the timing of the injector spray, it would give you 250 pounds of torque and 150 horsepower.
Yeah.
I was running at 750 horsepower and at 2,050 pounds of torque. There isn't a hill that would slow that thing down. But the fuel economy was just unbelievable.
How can they ban something that gets great performance like that?
The gas
companies. That's something that should be going underground.
I've been online for a while, and the place that I bought this one from, they don't sell it anymore.
Wow.
And I can't buy them anywhere in the United States. And it's
time
so
to go overseas on a holiday.
I'm starting to think, going to Europe where they came from, because they're made for farm tractors.
Oh,
and so the person that told me about it, he called them and said, "Hey, my father-in-law is a guinea pig for all kinds of funny stuff. Would this work on a highway tractor?"
Oh.
He says it's the same engine as a agricultural. He said absolutely, but he said we've never tried that. So I said bring it in.
Yeah.
And so I could run it for a month for free, and I tell you, the moment we started that truck, like we listened to it run before and then after, the difference. You could hear it changing the way the engine ran.
Yeah.
And the very, very first trip, I did 1.5 miles to the gallon. That was just going to Minneapolis and back. That's what we were doing. 1.5 miles. By the end of the week, I was doing 2.5 miles to the gallon, but 2.4 miles to the gallon, better on fuel.
Wow.
It was unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Well, that's going to spark some interest in a lot of people as they're listening here. But somebody should be going
that computer was called a Steinbauer.
Steinbauer.
It comes from Austria.
Names now too. Wow.
Comes from Austria. That's where they were made.
How in the world would they ban it?
It just said on the website, like when I Googled in the United States, where to buy a Steinbauer, it says banned in the USA.
Really?
Yeah. Can't get it.
Okay. Well, shout out to Dave's Diesel. Lots of good resources here.
Yeah, you guys have another good option.
Yeah. Look into that maybe if you want to do that.
Were they in Toronto?
I believe Mississauga. I think they had 2 locations.
Dave's Diesel, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Where's their brochure? Where's their stuff? You have a whole bunch of stuff here.
Here, this one here. Brampton address. Oh, that's for this. Is it Brampton again.
Is there a phone number on there?
Yes. This one is for service manager Ray Dave. His last name is Dave?
Oh. Maybe that's where Dave's is. Dave's is the second name, not the first.
Oh, then it was the owner that we were talking to.
It must.
Because his name was Ray.
Yeah.
Anyway, very good.
Okay, so we've done nuts for axles, Dave's Diesel. What was the next thing that lit a fire? S-bars. There's a few types of S-bar. There's S-bar, Webasto. There used to be a bunch of APUs.
Used to be ProHeat.
ProHeat, yeah, I remember that one.
I think they still make ProHeat.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different gadget than the S-bar. S-bar has been bought out by a German company. They're not called S-bar anymore. It's Spatcher. And they're a much better unit than...
What do you have on your vehicle?
I have the Webasto because they kept telling me that they can't get the Webasto or can't get the S-bar. Well, now I know why. Because they changed the name.
Oh,
okay.
So
someone doesn't know how to use Google.
Yeah, but to say this, they are a little bit more money than the Webastos. About $300, I thought, for the sleeper unit, and for about the same for the motor. But very, very efficient. What did the guy say? 3/4 of a gallon of diesel per 10 hours?
Something like that.
Or 8 hours?
It was ridiculous.
It's crazy cheap.
Yeah.
So instead of idling your motor, and the BTUs on these things was just atrocious.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Okay, when you idle your truck, what are you generally consuming?
A gallon an hour.
About a gallon an hour.
Well, you do about 3/4.
Yeah, 3/4 to a gallon an hour.
I do a full gallon.
A full gallon.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you do $5 a gallon times 10, I mean, I don't idle for 10 hours.
Yeah.
On a very cold day, I don't idle anyway. But
okay, so you're a team, but okay, you're looking every night that you use it. You're looking on average maybe 7 or 8 gallons a night. Right?
10. Well, if you're down for 10 hours and you're idling for 10, it's 10 gallons.
Yeah, it's 10 gallons. But you can compare it to, and you take off what your S-bar or whatever would have it, so you're down to 8 or 9 gallons, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because so the difference between the two,
the
difference between idling and the difference and having an S-bar is 8 or 9 gallons.
8
gallons.
9 gallons a night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that costs you $50 a night to idle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with this, and its comfort, It's warm.
Oh yeah.
Like
it's
quiet.
You can get government rebates on some of this.
That's on the air conditioning units.
Oh, that's on the air conditioning.
I'm wondering whether you couldn't for these also.
I would assume there would be
something somewhere. I have not heard.
You went to the booth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The Stein,
they didn't,
whatever it's called.
Yeah. They didn't mention anything about rebates or government grants with when I talked to them.
Sometimes when it comes to government rebates, they sort of come and go. There's a big push, and then they don't have anything. It's sort of like they run out of money, and then they get the next budget. And then it goes something up. It is up and down.
But we talked about before with the air conditioning units. You said there was a government rebate. Yeah, I am wondering if you wouldn't look into it that this would be a government rebate. As well.
I would.
I would imagine. Because you're not idling now, right?
Yeah.
Big stuff. Yeah,
and so with the SPAR for the sleeper, I think was $1,500. I think they were $1,500.
Yeah,
just $1,500.
Yes,
for the whole system.
No, just for the bunk, like for the cab.
For the cab,
and then it's another $1,200 for the motor
for the engine. So they're two different units.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So you're looking at almost $3,000, but if you take $50 a night of idling, I mean that doesn't take long.
It doesn't take long at all.
No,
it could easily $1,000 a month. So you pay for it in one winter,
right? One winter,
in a couple of weeks,
or
in a couple of months.
But I have had the SPAR in my sleeper. Okay, I have the Wabasco for the motor.
Oh, okay.
And that thing is not even 2 years old, and it's already growling and doing all kinds of noise. Doesn't want to start anymore. But the bunk one, I've had in my truck now for 10 years, and it was 3 years old when I bought it.
Oh wow!
And it's still like now I need to rebuild it.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to replace it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 13 years old.
Sure.
It's done a lot of running.
Sure. Yeah. Pays for itself.
Yeah.
Dozens of times.
And
over.
even the nice thing about these is if it's really cold, like really really cold outside, you can actually turn that thing on, and it helps you to keep the cab warmer.
Oh yeah. While you're driving, you mean?
Right.
Yeah. Because when it's 40 below and you're driving it.
Well, I drive a Freightliner, and I do that with mine all the time.
Oh, really?
That's not a good thing to say.
What, isn't that a standard option? If you want to stay warm in a Freightliner
with your cardboard door.
Yeah. No. And the part of the reason is because mine's got just the dial for temperature, right?
Yep.
While you're driving through warm and cold, you're always doing this. The one in the bunk that I have running, it's a temperature controlled. So I'm always constantly the same temperature because that thing's running. It's a more comfortable setup than...
Yeah. And if it only takes like a gallon or 3/4 of a gallon for 10 hours, I mean, you could have that thing running all day.
Yeah, oh, sure. Yeah. Now you do... What powers it? It's the batteries.
Diesel. Yeah, it runs...
you run your batteries.
And it's not the same batteries as...
Oh, yeah.
What's up?
Yeah.
Is it the same one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you use your regular truck batteries. But the nice thing about them now is they've changed them. Like with the Wabasco and with the old SPARs, you had to physically take them completely apart to get at the components that need to be cleaned or serviced.
Yeah.
With the new ones now, all you do is take the lid off, and everything is right there. So it's got a filter. He had one that was cut in half.
Oh, okay.
And all you do is take the lid off, and you could get right at the filter and take the filter out, clean it, wash it out, put the filter back in, or the burn chamber. You just clean out the burn chamber, because there's a glass in there that the burn chamber looks at. If that glass is very dark, then it doesn't want to start. But they've changed that whole system inside. It's very, very efficient now and easy to work on. I'm very impressed with what they've done. And the controller, you have the controller itself is $250, but with my Wabasco, you have to have a controller for the cab and for the motor, two separate ones. With the new ones, if you go with the Wabasco motor and bunk, you can use one. So you don't have to buy two. And so you can set a timer for the one on the motor,
Yeah.
And you can set the temperature on the cab. So, which is they've really improved a lot on that.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, nice units, really nice, and I like the serviceability.
Yep.
It's just you need new fan, there, done. You need this, it's right there. Like it's all plug and play in order, and
they're very quiet.
Yeah,
very quiet.
Yeah, and he was also mentioning the circulating fans. They're all variable speed. The new low draw electric, so it just if you just need a slight little breeze, it just burns or turns slow. Otherwise, the old ones, everything goes high speed and then it turns off, and then all you hear is a big racket. These are just slowly just.
And talking about fuel saving while we're doing that, there's another gadget that they had at the show that I want to change on my truck. The clutch fan on the main on the motor, like your main fan. It's electric. So you wire it in to your sensor, your temperature sensor that the fan takes off now. Because it reads, because mine goes on at 210. So you hook this fan sensor into that same sensor, and what happens is, let's say your motor gets at about 200 degrees, the fan will start to come on. You can't hear it, but the fan will start to come on, and it's got liquid inside the fan hub. So you're just changing the fan hub. You're using the same fan, just the fan hub is different. So what happens is, when that gel heats up, it'll turn the fan on and cool the engine down. And if it keeps increasing in temperature, it goes faster and faster and faster until it hits 210, and then it will fully engage. So with normal trucks like yours and mine, when it reaches 110, it just comes on full blast.
I remember driving also.
The brakes just come on and then bang.
It engages. It takes what, 13 to 15 horsepower.
Yep.
So, but with this fan that they had there, you just have to change the fan hub. Or the clutch.
It's a clutch, right?
Yeah. And I didn't ask him how much they were, but there is a supplier in Winnipeg that you can get them. And next time,
what was the company name?
You know what? You actually had a flyer here before that I saw it in.
You know what? That was another thing that I liked, and I'd like to. Yeah, we're gonna have to make sure that we get all these papers together properly, because. That clutch I liked, and the way I understood it, he was explaining it. To me, the first thing that came to my mind is like a torque converter on your transmission.
Yep, it's exactly
you know, because you can sit in neutral and you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But as soon as you give more RPMs, this thing engages your drive line, right? Well, it's the same premise. They use some sort of fancy fluids and whatever.
Yep.
It sounds great. What I wonder, like, how long has it been on the market? What's the longevity of it?
Yeah,
you know,
it's a good. That's
a good. It's been around for years.
Yeah.
All the new trucks have them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
they do.
All the new trucks have them. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
It has. They tie it in with the emissions. I forget where I saw that. You had a paper here where it was on, but everything is to do with emissions, right? Or cleaner.
Yeah.
So this thing, it just saves you on fuel.
Yeah.
So
because it doesn't kick it in, and for sure. Yeah.
No, it gradually goes on. It's kind of like your fan on your car. It like on my pickup, it has the same thing. It's electric, and temperature censored, but it doesn't just come on all of a sudden. Just woof.
Yeah.
It gradually
nice and quiet, engage and disengage,
and it'll cool it down.
Yeah.
Well,
that sounds good. I like that. Like that idea, that's for sure. Because I still remember driving my 82 Freightliner, and then we were going up a hill, so
yeah. Oh, your fan comes you hear on, this big squeak.
It's just
and then
and that's But anyway, and when you put that kind of tension in there, and it jams like that,
that's the part I didn't like.
the likelihood of something going when there's a jamming like that, you know, it is the length of use goes down because it's harder on the material, I guess. Metal, plastic, whatever it is.
I've actually heard in the last couple of years how fan blades are breaking, and that is the main cause of it.
It's just the sudden jerk.
It goes from 0 to 100 miles an hour. Instantly.
And they move an awful lot of air. Those things move air.
I know.
So there's all these different things that you can use to help save you money. And fuel. I mean, fuel is the number one expense. Number one expense.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure.
You know, sorry.
I want to.
A little.
Okay, go ahead.
Little sidetrack. You were talking about your engine heater, how it hasn't been performing or working as good as. I was just thinking about the one. I have an engine heater on my truck, and I put that on. Let's see. I'll bet you about 19 years ago.
Woo!
And I have not touched it.
It's an S-part? I don't think they made Webasto's back then.
Yeah, I think it will be. That's the weird part. I have not touched it in so many years, I don't recall the brand name. It sits behind my fuel tank, and it runs.
Is it a big unit?
No, it's a small little thing like this.
Okay.
All it does is heats up the engine. And it performs so amazingly.
It's not a pro heat.
You know what? It may be because this was a long. I'll bet you that's what it was. But I have not serviced that thing, and I'm going. Okay, this winter I'm going to have to put a new one on because this thing's going to pile up right away here. It has not let me down. The only time it let me down is there was one time where the fuel gelled up. And it wouldn't start. It wouldn't fire. And then as soon as the fuel issued, it just fired up. And I'm going, holy smokes! Have I got my money's worth out of this thing? And every year it just does. I just set my timer. That is so nice on an engine. Oh my word! Yeah. And I don't have a shop. I plug it in at home, but I keep my batteries charged. That is the key. My batteries are always charged at home. And then everything that runs off of the batteries, the batteries are great. There's no temperature isn't an issue.
Now these S-Parts, let's say you come home from a trip, this thing you can turn it on and keep your cab and bunk warm for 3 days, and it'll not kill your battery.
Yeah,
wow.
They use that little juice.
That is.
Now we're talking about heating in the wintertime. There are some units that cool during the summertime. Those are the expensive ones.
Those are the expensive ones.
They are the big ones. They generally, I remember when they came out, like this was 15, 20 years ago, they were like $10,000, $15,000 back then. You had to go through these government grants, and sometimes you get
you didn't get grants back then when first started.
There was some.
Oh yeah, right at the beginning.
But there wasn't it was just a few thousand, like maybe 20-30% or something like that. It was.
But there was several different phases that it went through. It started with a full APU, and that was a $10,000-$15,000 hit. But then it charged your batteries, it kept your engine warm. Yeah. And it AC'd and it heated. Like it was a full service unit.
Yeah.
And
they still make them.
They're
Carrier was there expensive. at the Truck World.
Yeah, and then there's a
JP 2000. That's a very good unit, but also very expensive. Yeah, very expensive.
Yeah, I've heard they've really upgraded. They use much less fuel. Much more maintenance friendly. But then there's also in the last 5 or 7 years, they've gone electric. Yep. And then I believe, I can't remember, there's 2 or 3 electric companies that were going AC. They were out there on the market for a couple years and then they went belly up. There was a green something. Basically they all had the same idea, the same premise. They just built their own units and they couldn't get enough market, I guess.
Yeah.
And
but this one here that you have, I was at that booth 2 or 3 times. It's called a Fresco 9000 Max. This is just air conditioning, runs off batteries. Super quiet. Super quiet. They had it running there. You could hardly hear it. But you said you had talked to a guy yesterday.
Yes. An owner-operator at where I work, he just finished having it installed. He did not give me the full bill on it. But he said after all the government rebates and whatever that was, he said his final bill was $5,000.
Yeah, and these units at the show were 9,000, right?
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she quoted us 9,000, and so with the rebates brings
Is
it
that
down
including
to
installation? Probably not, eh?
No. That was just the unit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you gotta get it put in. You can do it yourself if you want. It's not a big job. You have to drill a few holes to run pipes through.
Yeah.
And then you need somebody to charge it up, because it doesn't come with Freon or whatever they use.
Yeah.
So that has to be added. But so especially if you're running deep south for $5,000, it's a fairly small unit, but cools really nice.
I am.
Yeah.
Does it have the capacity?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. That's the big. That's probably the biggest
I
thing. Because when you're down in Alabama in the summertime, and it is blistering,
120% humidity.
They tested it. They tested this unit in Arizona at 120 degrees. They ran it for I think 20 hours or 24 hours.
Oh yeah.
And it was totally comfortable in the cab.
Arizona is dry. I would love to have it tested in a wet, like a moist, because that's where they pour, where the humidity just pours out of the thing, drip, drip.
Yeah.
And but I'm glad. Like if they've tested it and it worked out, it is, but it's expensive.
These are really nice options for it, because you can't buy all of these upgrades on a new truck anymore. They send you like you buy a new truck, everything is comfortable. It's all set. But when you start having to go somewhere and you can't idle, the new truck options, it's just not there.
Do they not have all these units already on new trucks already?
Yeah, a lot of them, yeah.
Like
do they?
Ones? Yeah.
A lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think
Volvo, I think, and Freightliner now, I see a lot of them have them on there.
Yeah.
Is that from factory, or do they spec it?
Yeah, Volvos come from factory, cooling and heating.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you don't know, which is the major question of almost everything, is what's the replacement cost? So how long do they last?
Yeah.
Not everything is going to last 19 years.
Right.
That's a heater. But for cooling or whatever, because I kind of suspect that the cooling is you're probably 4 or 5 times more usage than the heating aspect of it, and it's more complex of a system to do than the heating is.
I've talked to a lot of drivers that there for a while. A lot of the guys were putting carriers on. They were about 15,000, something like that. But by the time they're paid for, they're done. They're done.
Yeah.
And quite high maintenance.
Yeah.
Like Dan was saying.
Yeah.
A lot of maintenance, and you got to look after them. You got to change oil on them every certain hours.
Yeah.
And whatever, they're just a lot of problems.
Yeah.
With these, they run on batteries. If you buy their batteries, I think they guaranteed them for 3 years. And those are special batteries. You have to have extra batteries to run.
Yeah.
Run that. You don't have to, but it's wise to run extra batteries.
They're probably like a golf cart deep cycle or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, they're not made for, like, you wouldn't be able to put them in your truck.
No.
to run as batteries. They're not made for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they're made for running down, going up, running down, going up.
Yeah.
So it's actually a very nice. It's a very nice unit.
Nice. Yeah, that's. I like it. So, what is the next? What do we got? You got wheel balancing. That's another topic. You have your own wheel balancer on your balancing system right now on your thing. What we had, there was one here that actually had the little pellets in the tires themselves.
Oh yeah.
But you have a different system, right?
Well, I have the what they're called harmonic balancers.
Mm-hmm.
They have beads all the way around. You actually it's
well, it's like a ring with a bunch of beads in there, and and then as you go, they go round and around.
Yeah,
and then they
that when I put
that's been around for 20 years.
I bought those at a show in the U.S. I got the balancers for very, very cheap, and then I those I don't know what you call them. They're balancing pins that you put into your when you put your wheel on.
Yeah.
Don't put any nuts on there.
Centering studs.
Something like that.
I think it's.
You put them on, and then you can center the whole thing, and then put the nuts on the rest of them, and then take these out, and then because they thread on the same thread as the bolts. So you take them off, and then you put those bolts on. But when I put those harmonic balancers on, I don't know what these beads do that they were advertising there. She said what the how much longer longevity you got on your tires, but I went on a steering tire. I went from 9 months to a year to pretty much 2 years.
Oh wow!
On a steering tire, I got almost 100%, about 75, 80% longer life on my tires.
Wow!
And they do not cup.
Oh,
they do not cup.
Yeah.
They
cupping.
run
Oh, that was a big thing years ago. Eh?
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, the tires are better than they used to be too.
Yeah.
But my tires don't cup. They run off perfectly smooth, and I would never go away from that. I'd be interested to try those beads in the drive tires.
I am.
But
do you not have balancers on your drives?
No.
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 Okay.
You can get these harmonic balancers.
Yeah.
For in between.
Yeah.
I've seen trucks have them.
Yeah.
But they're not as efficient as on the steering, where those beads would be better for the drive to put them in the tires.
Okay. Because I had, I don't have them on right now. I had them on my drives because I was having a vibration, and it didn't totally take it away, but there was something. I think I had a bad set of drives, and I was getting a bounce. I was changing shocks and this and that and all sorts, but the balancers that I had on my drives were a little different than yours. Yours had the beads in there. Yeah. Mine had the guy who sold it to me said it was sort of like mercury. I can't see them putting mercury in it because it's a toxic chemical. But every time I I do my tires, when they put them on, the guys say, "Oh, these are no good anymore. You can't hear." Because when you turn it around like this, you can't hear the beads. Okay. There is no beads.
Yeah, mine, you can hear them rolling.
Yeah, yeah. Mine is totally quiet, and the guys say, "Oh, these are no good. They're going to throw." No. It's supposed to be like that. Just put it back on. Well, you should. They always know better, right? Yep. Yeah. But I've found I like them for balancing tires. But you're not supposed to balance tires before. If you put those on, you're not supposed to balance your tires, and that I find kind of weird.
I still do.
Yeah, I do anyways.
Yeah,
and it's just like, okay, if you don't need them, then at least you're there for when you do. That's the way. But the one thing I didn't notice anybody, maybe I missed it, was it the tire pressure balancers. Those
okay, yep.
That used to be a big thing, and I didn't see anybody.
Well, Oh, you mean keep your tire
keep
pressures?
your duals.
Yeah, they had
duals
them there.
matching.
They had them there.
They did.
Yeah.
Okay, I
I
didn't.
have them on my trailer.
Okay, I see them on the trailers all the time.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, and I think maybe the reason they don't do that is because there's a lot of super single things happening. Like you've got singles now instead, and then you don't need that. But there's.
Oh yeah.
The only thing I find, and I have looked, I don't know how many times on the trailer.
Yeah.
I don't know where to put the air in.
Oh.
Okay, but they
go to the center,
yes.
and I don't know how to fill them up.
Okay, but that I don't know either. But is that not because it's pressurized from the hub? Like they're fed from an airline in the hub itself?
That I don't know.
Because
You're right. I've never seen anybody
adding air. No,
that's
just
a mechanical
presumed.
question or a tire truck. You know, when I was in my 20s,
I have to go under the trailer today anyway yet, so I'm going to take a look. So you think there's an airline from the back?
Well, I'm thinking somewhere in the hub, like because everything comes inside into the hub, right?
Yeah, and then it goes to the inside wheel and the outside wheel.
So I'm guessing that it's fed by an airline from the inside, because
we're
otherwise
exposing how much we don't know.
Got to
well,
have
on that we don't. We not because
I wonder how many other people they got, because I've never seen people. I used to, when I was in my 20s. This is 40 years ago, right? I used to work at a tire shop. And so you get some of those, and one thing what I was told back then, sometimes, and this is all dealerships, sometimes a tire is just bad.
Yeah.
It's a brand new tire and it's bad. Mm-hmm. And you can balance it, you can do whatever, it's just bad for whatever the reason is. And sometimes just remove it, put a new one on, and so be it. And they probably, some quality it's gotten better, but it's not 100% science.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I know you spent, I remember this is a few years ago, you spent a year trying to get rid of a vibration.
Yep.
And in the end, was it a tire?
Not that I can say 100%. I'm guessing it was a mismatch of something somewhere. But it would shake and vibrate like the tire is letting go or something. And my steering wheel would do this. I'd slow down, and then it would go away, and then I could drive for 10, 15 miles, dead smooth, dead calm smooth. Then all of a sudden it would start doing like this again. And
that's in your steering though. Because the drives would shake the truck. The steering.
Yeah, but the whole truck was shaking. Like it, and I think it was coming through from the truck out through into the steer, and I don't think it was going. I couldn't, because the seat was doing the same as the steering wheel.
Well,
so
that's one of the most irritating things trying to find.
And you just start throwing money at it and money at it, and you change this and you like.
I did that with the truck, that not the one, not the last one, the one before. I drove it for like a year and a half, and a guy wanted it, so I sold it to him. But anyway, that's what I did with that truck. It did the same thing. I changed all the wheel bearings. I changed all the drums.
Yeah.
All the brakes. I changed it. My driveline was good, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
It never slowed down. And so when the guy bought the truck, I told him about it, and I told him what I had done. I showed him my maintenance records. I said, this is what I tried. I said, I cannot find it.
Yeah.
And I said, it drives me crazy. And he drove the truck for a month, maybe a little more. I met him one day. I said, he said, I found the problem.
Oh, no.
I said, what was it? He said, one of the drive tires was bad.
Yeah.
I said, one?
One?
Yeah. I said, how did you find that? He said, it started to cup.
Oh.
And I had put brand new tires on there,
like
not even a year before that.
Yeah.
And like you said, one time.
Random.
Yeah.
And he said, I changed that tire and all gone. Oh, you know how expensive those bearings are?
Oh, yeah. Not just the expense, but the time and the aggravation and
because you could have one bad tire. And you say, okay, forget it, and you get rid of all the tires, get brand new tires, and you could still have one bad tire in there, and you still that's
I was dealing with the same thing again.
Yeah,
with a vibration, very fine vibration.
Mm-hmm.
I got a safety done 2 weeks ago, and I told the guys, I said, go underneath there and check all my U joints.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that they're good. The hanger bearings, make sure they're good.
Yeah,
and checked out good. And I said, no. I said, check it properly. I said, there's a vibration and it sounds like it's coming from the driveline.
Yeah.
And so they sent another mechanic under there. Mm-hmm. And I said, I want you to thoroughly check it.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked up the truck and he said, your driveline's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
This trip, we're going empty from Saskatoon to Montana. And this thing is just vibrating. And it's worse than it ever is. And I thought, what on earth is the problem?
Mm-hmm.
One of these days, something's going to fly apart and then we'll find it.
Yeah.
And I'm driving along and all of a sudden I thought, I'm going to try something. I dumped my suspension.
Oh, doodle. Yeah, that's a whole nother.
The suspension came down. I didn't cut the cruise.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, the vibration was completely gone.
Oh, wow.
I switched it back, and
the
here
leveling
it comes.
valve.
Here it comes.
Yeah.
Well, last night, I got under there and I lowered some suspension.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know what happened, but somehow something went out of whack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I dropped my suspension, and so we're checking it out.
That's interesting.
I love those. I love these kind of stories. I love mechanics. But it's not my industry.
Right.
But I love those stories. You know, they're awesome.
Well, that's why we're doing the podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I know I do have clients talk to me about mechanic stuff. You know, it's because I've had clients for 20 years and they say, oh, do this and this, and I hear so much over 20 years and so many different stories, you know.
Yeah.
And the thing that really grips me is, like a $12,000 engine job, and now it's $50,000-$60,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's not right. There's gouging there somewhere, and it has to do with opportunity. And and primarily the cost goes up because the new trucks are so expensive.
Yeah.
And that's the primary reason. Yeah. If the new trucks were down to $125,000, $130,000, the price for rebuilding engines would just plummet.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Why?
I talked to a guy, he had a 2018 Kenworth. Blew the engine on it. They had to put a crate engine in it because the crank was damaged. $70,000.
Okay. So, yeah, I know, but I mean supply and demand. If the price of a brand new truck came down to $130,000, what would happen is people who say, well, if I got to pay $70,000 for a truck, engine job, I'll just buy a new truck.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then the mechanics, well, they get less and less jobs.
Yeah.
So it's, well, the only way we'll do it is we'll just lower the price. The guys with the parts or whatever, they'll lower their price just to get the market share back again. And then it'll bring that's supply and demand.
Itself.
It should correct at least moderately.
Well, I'm going to mention something here. At Truck World, they had a truck in there that was electric with hydrogen. Correct?
Yes. Yeah.
That truck, it was a day cab. It was owned by Loblaws. They had just bought it. They hadn't used it yet. And this truck was $750,000. The government pays $250,000 of it. You're still out of pocket $500,000 for a day cab.
Yeah.
They want to implement in the next, what was it, in the next 2 years?
Yeah, something
all
like
the
that,
ports, all the trucks in the ports across North America have to have those trucks.
Yeah.
I said
zero emissions.
And I said, well, I think you actually asked the question. Okay, where do you buy hydrogen?
Oh, that's right too. I was thinking it's pure electric.
And this is what he said. He said, they have made a deal with the manufacturers that they're going to have a hydrogen station where the trucks are bought.
Yeah. So technically, if you buy some trucks to service this port, then they have a truck that has a hydrogen tank on it.
Yeah.
So drive over here, fill up your.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? This brings a story that I've been waiting to tell somebody. I came out of Salt Lake City the other day, and the weather was crappy. Whatever. I was driving along, and all of a sudden I seen off to the side there was a big parking area where a whole bunch of city buses were. Okay, and then I seen they were all plugged into these charging stands.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going, oh, that's kind of cool. Okay, electric, right? On the corner of each parking lot, or in the corners, was two of the biggest diesel generators I have ever seen powering these. Like I've pulled a lot of big diesel generators on a flatbed. This one would go into an RGN, but it would have to be because it was almost as tall as the buses themselves. That's how big these generators were, and I don't know whether it would fit in the well of an RGN. Like a ridiculously big, because they were charging the 6 buses maybe.
Wow.
So there was 2 huge anyways, that was I just kept driving. I'm going, oh, we are green. We are finally green.
Okay. Now I'm going to tell a story. We've discussed this before in a podcast way back when, if you remember. Or maybe we talked about it privately. I don't know. Can't remember what we did and didn't do. Remember that there was a guy who invented an electric truck that goes up a mountain.
Oh, in BC.
Yeah.
Yes.
BC.
Yeah. There's 2 guys.
Yeah. There's 2 guys. They invented. They go up a mountain and then they load up with logs and they come down and then they charge their batteries with the gravity of the truck coming down. Mm-hmm. Okay, have you heard the rest of the story?
I've been listening. Yes, I've heard some of it, but carry on.
Okay.
Those guys, that's amazing.
Great idea. It's a great idea. Fabulous. So they said, hey, you know what? Why don't you just apply for this green, what do you call it, grant, so that you can build a manufacturing plant and do whatever, right? Okay, so he fills out these grants, okay, relatively straightforward, and he submits it, okay, and it goes to this lady. Let's call her, I don't know, Diane, okay, or Rhonda. It doesn't matter, whatever her name is. And it goes, she's the one who processes it, okay, and he gets a letter back saying, I'm terribly sorry, but your application has been rejected. And but if you would like to resubmit it through this other accounting firm and agency, you might be able to qualify. Okay? And so he goes, okay. So he does some research and he finds this, and it was from Myers Norris Penny. Okay, Myers Norris Penny is one of the, I think it's the 7th or one of the 7 largest accounting firms in Canada. And so he goes to Myers Norris and he goes through the application process, and guess who takes the application? This Diane or Rhonda or whatever her name is. The same lady. So the lady who was processing it. And if you go through Myers Norris takes 20% of the grant.
Ooh.
And so she had the power to reject an application, ask to go through someplace, and she gets 20.
That's blackmail.
That's blackmail. And he says, I'm refusing the grant because it's corrupt. And this is all over all over the internet, and this was through BC, British Columbia, and there's articles on it. You can look it up or whatever, but it's a scam.
Yep.
And it's a way for someone to make an awful lot of money.
Yep.
And I'm shocked about that Myers and Norris was behind it. Myers and Norris Penny is generally like I know people in it. I have people.
Yeah.
My office manager in Steinbach here, her husband works for Myers and Norris. I mean, they're nice people there. Like I really, but this particular situation, they are gleaning. It could be tens of thousands. Who could be hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Because in the interview, and I can't remember whether CBC or somebody interviewed him, he says, I don't feel right about participating in something that is that corrupt. He says, if it wouldn't have been for that, he said, we would have a plant producing this this stuff today. Like within 6 months, we'd be up and rolling on it.
Yeah.
But he shut the whole thing down.
Wow.
And that is a stain.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's the same company or whether they redesigned or because there is what I've been watching, and I'm probably 6 or 8 months behind, maybe even longer, but there is a company out of BC, like you said, that built an electric truck, but it's a hybrid. It's got a diesel generator that boosts the batteries once it's going.
That's what this one was.
Okay.
The electric one, and it was there as a backup because sometimes it's only, depending on the situation, it's only 2/3 or 3/4 of the way up, and then they need the boost to get the rest.
So but they were in Ontario. They got it certified, and then they had to flat haul the truck back to BC, and now BC is doing their thing, and it's like you said, it's going through. It's supposed to be set up as a manufacturing company because just doing this one thing wasn't enough, so they can mass produce these things.
But they're still running diesel generators in there?
They've got much smaller diesels, and in order
they
to get qualified, they could only use a certain diesel generator. And right now, I think it was a CAT that it was the only one that actually qualified for so that they could hit certain EPA standards. And it was only that one.
The story about that one going up down the hill, I think they reduced the diesel consumption by 75%.
Right.
That was the 75, 80% or some very impressive numbers or whatever.
Yeah.
But the problem is when government gets involved in there and somebody, has their little hook into these non-elected officials who allow them to glean their savings out of it. I was with a friend of mine who was doing. He's an extremely wealthy guy, and he was doing some things has to do with some shares and converting it into saving taxes at a massive level. Okay, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars with millions of dollars. Okay, and he asked me to explain it to him what they were doing. And I looked through, there was like 15, 20 pages of these things. And there's, how in your corporation you have Class A common shares, right? This one had Class A all the way down to F. And there was all sorts of things coming and going. And I said, I'm not spending time and energy to figure this out. But it was unbelievably complicated. I don't know whether it should have been or needed to be or anything like that, but they took a huge cut out of it. And the particular rule extinguished, the particular option that he had stopped December 31st, 2023. So whatever was available back then is not available now. But those kind of things come along. But it's a little bit like law firms and accounting firms they sort of lobby the government and say, hey, if we do this, banks and insurance companies do that too, where they'll lobby the government and say, hey, can we provide this? And, we'll just do it for 3 or 4 years or something like that. And it's a great deal, whatever that is, some sort of tax loophole or whatever it is, and then make it so complicated that only a few people can do it, and they get their big cut out of it. That is so prevalent in Canada, it is ridiculous. It's because we are just loaded with bureaucracy. And realistically, if we cut the government in half, we still have too many employees. That's my opinion. That's like, it is needlessly complicated, and because lawyers and accountants and a bunch of other people have all of their hands in pies that they shouldn't have. But anyway, okay, let's get back to our topic now. Okay, now that was wheel balancing. I like this one. This was just down video cameras. You guys use video cameras?
I don't know.
You don't?
I have a dash cam. But
you have a dash cam?
Yeah, no, I have a. This goes back to when I was hauling oversize. I have a video cam that I put on the back of the trailer, and I've got one on the back of the headache rack, just watching the load. And when I'm
blind spots.
Yeah. When I was doing oversize, I could see behind me, and that's just a small little screen. It was, it wasn't specific. It wasn't a truck specific unit. It was just something. It was actually an agricultural unit.
Oh yeah.
And what farmers use for watching out at the end of the sprayers and that kind of thing. Sure. It's just very functional, and even now, I've got it on the back of my headache rack. That's 100% of the time. And I watch my load as I'm driving along. If all of a sudden the tarp starts flapping, I can see that better than I can see in my mirrors.
Sure.
If a chain starts moving or whatever, it just gives you that small little whatever. But that's all I'm using that for right now.
Yeah.
But these guys you were talking about, they
fully integrated into the
integrate
trailer
the whole
and that is an unbelievably you can get used to that very quickly.
Oh yeah.
Well, even my camera, it picks up part of my blind spot that my mirrors don't cover. Right in front of the right by my duals, I guess. That's probably those. And my it's amazing. My eye goes to my camera before it hits my mirrors.
Yeah.
And I'm always watching for a little bit of movement in those spots in my camera. And it's above a habit already. It's
what's your experience with camera systems that when it comes to rain and fog and sleet and stuff like that, does it work?
You know what?
When it's raining, for instance, looking in your side view mirrors is like it's almost useless.
Yeah.
It's totally
the worst
ridiculous.
is when there's a little bit of mud, because the mud sticks.
Oh yeah.
Rain or snow, it will build up, and it's sort of like it cycles off of the lens. Okay. It'll build up and then it'll slough off, and then build up and slough off. So you got kind of, and I haven't figured out a fix for that. I don't know.
I don't think you can.
I don't think there is, but
a little wiper.
Yeah.
It'd be like wiper. Yeah. It'd be like Formula One, where you have these clean things and then
little tearaways. Yes,
it's either a tearaway or it's a dome that just moves.
Yeah.
Have you got the camera on your mirrors?
No, I do not. No,
okay.
No, it's just one on the back of my headache rack.
I could see. I could really I could get used to that very quickly.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you don't have it and you feel kind of naked.
Yep.
Like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. No, I've definitely thought of the on my mirrors. And I think if I make that jump, the way my system is set up is my screen can only display one camera at a time. I can cycle through 4 different cameras. I have that option, but I don't want to push the button. If I look, I want to see it.
Yeah.
So I'll probably buy another screen, put one on this side, and that does this mirror, and this side, one on this side, just off in the peripheral of my dash, so to speak, and that's probably what I would do.
The camera system that was close to your booth,
Yeah.
that one was only $1,500. That included 3 cameras, one on each mirror and one behind the bunk.
Yep.
Then they had a cordless one, or it ran on
wireless.
Wi-Fi
Yep.
off of the unit that you could put on the back of your trailer.
Yeah.
But somebody was saying, maybe it was you, that it has to be in a line of signal. It's
Yes.
if you have a high load, it doesn't pick it up.
Yeah.
So you're best off having a wire.
Yes.
And if you're not always pulling the same trailer, or you're not pulling your own trailer, if it was my trailer, now I always pull the same trailer.
Yeah.
I would mount a one with wire in the back.
Yeah.
Just put a plug on the front, drill a hole through the front, and plug it in.
Yeah.
That way you had it on.
But you guys
your
do
system,
flat deck though. That
Yeah,
you're a little bit different, as opposed to dry van or reefer.
Yeah.
We don't have that need nearly as much, but it is nice on the side.
Yeah.
Maybe in the back. But
to have a camera on the back on the
yeah.
top of the trailer, that would be so nice.
Your setup, because you pull what it would be 99% of the time you're the same trailer, right? 100%. Yeah. So I would do that plug and play and just zip tie the wires right to the back.
I'm getting a new trailer. It's going to be here in July. And
even to change trailers, like if you change trailers every year, I would do that setup right away.
Yeah.
Just plug it and run your wires with your airlines and everything. Everything's right there.
Yep.
Plug and play, and
that's what I want to do with my. I'm going to wait, but I'm going to buy this system.
Yeah.
But
that system you're talking about that they were selling came with a hard drive that recorded also, right? Yeah. See, mine doesn't do that. Mine is just straight visual, no recording. So, but that mine's less than half the price of what you were talking.
Actually, I think this one had one on each mirror and one forward, not behind the bunk.
One forward, and then you could do the wireless was for the back, right?
Yeah, but what I would do is I would put the wireless one on the back of the bunk.
Yeah.
And then put another camera on the back of the trailer.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And but there was
that sounds
it
like
was
a better
$250 extra for another camera.
Yeah.
So
in the whole setup, that's not that bad.
No, so you're for under $2,000.
Yeah.
You got
a lot of protection.
Lots of protection.
Visual and
yeah. And I see some Volvos. If you watch on the newer Volvos, on the hood, they have cameras.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And those cameras are amazing. They see everything you don't see in a mirror.
Oh, yeah.
Like you don't even need convex mirrors when you have those.
Yeah.
Because you just have to glance at your screen. And the screen that he had there, you could split 2 ways or 4 ways. So you could always have it split 2 ways so that just your side cameras are on that you can see.
Yeah.
Or you can press a button and change it.
Yeah.
But that way,
I think what's going to be happening, like in the next 5 years or whatever, the dashboard of most new trucks, all they're going to have is just screens.
That's so distracting.
I know it might be distracting, but it does change a person's driving
the
habits.
distracting. I understand that to a point, but if you look at what's happening on dashes now, they've got a GPS and their phones and their iPads or iPods, and then there's the screen with all their
mile per
electronic logs and all of that.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
over here yet.
Yep.
So it is getting, except
It's
for your
filling up.
round gauges over here, there's an awful lot of electronics that you've got to almost ignore while you're driving.
Yeah.
And then you watch these YouTube reels where the drivers are not doing that. You know, they're just
all over the place.
that.
There's
There's
some funny ones.
Oh.
There's some. Oh my goodness! Why are you even driving?
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh. Anyway, sorry that.
No, but I'm a big believer in those what do they call them?
Dash
Video cams and
Yes. Yeah.
like I got this sneaking suspicion that it's going to be mandatory to have it all recorded just for insurance purposes.
I think insurance. I'm surprised insurance hasn't gone further.
Yeah. It in my opinion, it's way bigger of a safety issue to actually visually see stuff what's going on than it is, driver assist and stuff like that. That's
because if you're looking at some of these YouTube dash cams that are out there, like how do you explain this guy came and cut me off and did this?
Yeah.
No, it's right there.
Yeah.
Look, you're the idiot.
Happened to a driver at my other company. He was in Edmonton, and he got pulled over by the cops. And the cop said, you had hit somebody back there. He said, I didn't ever hit anybody. He said, yeah, you did. You were called in. And he said, jump in the passenger seat. He said, I can't get in your truck. He said, this will be worth your while. Jump in the passenger seat. He pulls his screen around. He's got an 8-way split.
Oh, no.
This guy's got cameras everywhere. He said, what time was this? The cop gave him the time. He rewound it to just before that, and they played it. Never came close to touching anybody. Cop says, thank you very much. He said, this is incredible. He says, somebody's going to have a good day.
Yeah.
Yes.
He out of and into his car and back the other way.
You know what?
Yeah.
That is
Saved his skin right there.
Yeah,
that is exactly what insurance should be looking at.
Yeah.
But
then again, I was talking to a higher up guy at a pretty major firm, and they had these cameras all up, and there was a guy who they found out later. This is what he does for a living. He just goes and he hits trucks.
Oh.
And in certain locations, and then he goes through insurance claims, bodily injury, time, and blah blah blah, all these other things, whatever. And they recorded everything. They saw exactly what the guy did, but the insurance company still paid the guy $50,000.
Seriously.
Yeah, and I was talking to the guy, and he was furious that the insurance company paid him a penny.
Yeah.
And I guess it was down the States, but I guess the insurance company says, well, that's our break-even point, so we'll just send it off.
But you know what the sad thing is? That these cameras, they are not applicable in court.
They're not?
They're not admissible. You can't use them in court. They don't hold water.
Really?
No. Dash cams do
maybe
not,
that's why the insurance company paid it out.
dash cams do not
That
help
should
you.
change.
Yep.
That means
that has
that-
to change.
Maybe in some jurisdictions it could or shouldn't, or could, or because that's pretty clear evidence.
It is clear evidence.
But somebody should. That'd be cool to talk to somebody who sees why the wherewithal somebody's doing something like that. That's because we see them all on YouTube. These guys.
Remember
the one in
trucks off and the guy gets
there was one. It's classic. A little scooter goes in front of a vehicle. He gets out of the scooter and then he runs backwards and he hits the guy in the front, and then he falls down and but he had the guy on camera. As soon as he says, "Oh, I got the camera," well, then the guy takes up and takes off. But I mean, it was in a foreign country. I don't know what country, whatever. But there are people that's their livelihood. That's what they do for a living. But boy, you know what? But then again, well, okay, there is. I shouldn't say AI, but there is ways to fraudulently do cameras and stuff like this. But a serious tech person, you can always see fraud in in videos. It is there's something about natural that makes it very, very clear, and maybe in the future it won't be known or anything like that, but like they'll be able to, AI will make it perfect so that you don't know whether it's true or not, but maybe that's one of the reasons why they don't, because there's some fraud in there. But that's the cart before the horse. That's way that's not really all that fair. So what's the next thing that we got? We got video cameras and seats. Driver seats. Now that's your thing. You got some pretty good. You've been looking for a seat for a truck for what? How many? A couple of years already.
Longer than my wife wants me to. Yeah.
but that is one thing about driving long distance is if you don't have a good seat.
Yes.
Oh my word! Yeah. That makes a life and death difference between the job that you do.
And there's a lot of good seats out there. You have to, but my issue is I can order anything anywhere, but until I sit on it, am I going to like it? Yeah. Like you can advertise. It's like going and buying underwear. Like you can't return it. You can't return it, and this isn't working for me. So there was only one station in that whole place that was selling seats out of all of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Only one.
Yep.
Like
what's the name?
Sears wasn't there.
National
Noodler wasn't there. Nobody.
What is this one? Noddler.
Noddler. Yeah.
Knoe.
I've never heard of them. Apparently they customize them,
and they're Canadian made.
Yeah. In Canada. So there's Sears, there's Bostrom, there's all of these
manufactured in Quebec.
Yeah. So and I figured, and the price range was quite comparable.
Very comparable.
Yeah, and you can customize them. Whereas these bigger brands, you just order what they got, and then you can customize from there. But you got to buy their basic package and then go from there. Yeah. These guys, you just order exactly what you want, and you can detail it, and they've got
those had back heat.
Yeah,
and the seat.
They've got the heat and the cool, I believe.
Yeah.
If I remember right, there was cooled also. I know they had the heat, and they had the massagers in the back too, which I guess my back was very sore because I sat on that, and that was terrific. I could imagine myself driving all day with that.
I'd fall asleep.
Yes. Yeah. But no, I'm definitely going to be pursuing this.
The leather one that we sat on.
Yeah.
That one was only $800.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy cow! They started at $800. That was leather. It was a soft leather like Sears has.
Yeah.
Like the Sears seat. They're soft leather.
Yeah.
Very comfortable just to sit on.
Yeah.
And they had the low ride, the mid ride, the tall
and you
ride.
you can customize them all as you prefer.
Yep.
Whereas you buy a Sears seat and you get that, and then if you want the low ride, you've got to get the extra. You've got to change the mechanism underneath itself.
You have to cut a hole in.
Yeah. And the one in there, actually, the side of it comes in.
Yes, it's a little more wraparound.
Hugs you a little more.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's
it's a memory foam underneath the leather, so it's a nice, a nice comfortable. Yeah, I was very impressed. I know I'm going to pursue it much more diligently shortly.
You have to lobby your wife, I guess.
No, she's actually lobbied me. I come home whining, complaining about my sore back, and she said, "You can't talk about that. You haven't bought a seat. You go buy. You're authorized to buy a seat."
Well, why are you waiting?
My problem is the cost of these.
Purchase order.
Like you can go from the basic of a $1,200 seat.
So put a cheaper one in the passenger side.
Yes, but you can also. But then if you want to add heat or cool or whatever, you can go up to $3,000-$4,000 for a seat. It is just, and I'm going, man, I just like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, but even if you had just heat,
yes,
like with the comfort of that seat that we sat on,
yes,
and just put heat in it,
oh, yeah, no, I know, I need to, and I will. I will bring a review when that seat.
Good. Yeah, we'll do that.
I'll let you guys know.
It's a very good brand. If you want to see it.
Yeah.
Right, so,
it looks.
Yeah, different colors. I saw they had.
Yeah, they had a wide variety. You can mix and match your inset.
Yeah.
By the way, just for the sake of there is nobody that we're reviewing here that is giving us any kickbacks or anything like this. Or just, nobody knows that we're doing this.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
There's black and brown, tan, blue, gray, red. That's in the leather, and same colors in the fabric. So if you like fabric instead, they have heat in both fabric and leather.
Yeah.
They didn't have any of the fabric seats there, did they?
The one with the massagers was fabric.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And the other one was leather.
Yeah.
But super comfortable, soft to sit on.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
we all started driving truck when we had those.
When I started driving, we had a shock absorber under the seat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, we didn't even have an airbag.
No. Now the driver's seat was usually a little bit better than the passengers. Remember some of the passengers? Seats?
They were solid.
They were
solid.
Yeah.
That was terrible. That was almost unrideable. Yeah. You almost and then have the roads the way they were. Forget it.
But you saw no fat people.
It's like you shake all the.
It's called shake it up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But
okay, if you talk about that, our generation is actually pretty good because I talked to my wife's uncle who's driven for years, and he drove team hauling. I can't remember what it was, to BC, and that would be a week-long journey, and just a little bit of heat, no air conditioning, and solid ride seats. And that's when the roads weren't the way. And you know what? I look back. I'm looking at how we've progressed, and I can't even imagine getting into a vehicle that those guys did. And those were the early years. And they just went to work and they did their thing.
But we have such comfort now. And you can drive all day long, and you don't see guys dealing with back issues like you used to.
Yeah.
Comparatively, well,
for
sure.
No, you know what? It's a thing about looking back and seeing where we've come from, and respecting those drivers that had to go through that stage of development, and we're still going through that because 50 years down the road. What are they going to be talking about? What kind of freaking seats did they? What?
Yeah.
So
I did when I tore my rotary cuff. We designed me and my mechanic. We designed a system where you could actually put air in the airbags, so you could raise it up, and especially if you're pulling any kind of trailer like I did before. Guys have smaller wheels than you do, so then they drop the trailer lower, and then you or they got taller wheels and they crank them up, and then you back underneath and it doesn't even touch the trailer, and then you got a heavy load in there and you're cranking, and that's what happened with my shoulder. It came out of gear, and I just under full force just went down, and and I tore it. But anyway, so we designed this thing, so now from then on I would just in my cubby hole have just an electric switch, turn the switch on, and then I walk around, and then it lifts the trailer right off the ground.
Nice.
And then you crank it, and you go throw the switch down, and
that's awesome.
That should be a standard operating.
It should
from factory thing. Yeah.
Well, another topic another thing we've got, and we don't have to spend a whole lot of time in there, and that is ELDs. And ELDs, the different carriers have different service providers for ELDs. And I actually, we had 8 people at our booth, and 2 of them were our tech guys. And I just told them to go out there and look, we have to find out what ELDs are out there, what they're doing for various things, and then find out carrier to carrier what their policy is with regards to keeping, storing ELDs and stuff. It is the purpose of Making Your Miles Count to provide electronic storage of all ELDs for truck drivers in Canada free of charge. It'll be, I know that sounds silly to provide something like that free of charge, but if you get our app, it's not available today for anybody other than our clients, but if you download our app, what we want to do is you have a username and password, and then you can either download all of the ELD, your logbooks, and it's permanently stored on our storage for 7 years, so that from an income tax perspective, because you have to keep it for 7 years, so you always have a record of it. The primary reason why we're providing this service is because not all carriers have the same policy when it comes to storing ELD logs. There's one carrier that when we interviewed them, said, what do you do with your ELD logs? He says, after 6 months, it's erased from the system. We don't have access to it. So that means the driver, whether it's an owner-operator or whether it's a company driver, they have to always make sure that they have an up-to-date ELD, because they have to keep copy of their ELDs for their tax preparation or their tax submission for audit. And but if carriers don't provide it after 6 months, if you forget about it for a little while, all of a sudden it's gone. Well, how do you have access to it? And that is a huge issue that we want to solve, just so that the first stage will probably be the driver themselves activate the saving of it on the system. There are a few concerns about this that we've talked to some carriers about it. First of all, some carriers have no interest in having a third party store logbooks for some of their drivers. So, we want to do all of that. But they don't do it for the 6 months, and then then they talk to the other ELD providers, and there's half a dozen ELD system providers out there, and most of them, not all of them, but most of them say we keep those logs for years, indefinitely, or for however many years. So there is access to it, but the carrier needs to provide the driver with access to that historical stuff. And some carriers have zero interest in providing that to their drivers. We talked to one carrier, which is a very big operator, and they had no intention of doing anything other than 6 months. That's it, and we don't want to hear anything from our drivers about it after. That is that has to change. From if you're a carrier and you're you have to do it for 6 months, it is a part of your responsibility to have access to ELDs for your drivers so that they can complete their personal income tax return for whatever form. And that's something that has to change. And we want to provide third-party, storage for that. Some carriers are going to say yes. Some carriers are going to say no. We want the storage to be only accessible by the driver themselves. We actually do not want access to those documents unless the driver gives us access. And it has to do with confidentiality of the logbooks themselves. So that's where we are at right now. We're looking to develop this system. It's going to be quite costly for us, not just to develop it, but also to store truck drivers' ELDs for 7 years. There is cost associated with that, obviously, but we do want to be the number one accounting firm in Canada to service the trucking industry, drivers. Yes, owner-operators or lease operators for sure, but a fair bit of drivers move towards being an independent operator. So it's a little we have to serve both in that regards, and we do want to provide that. There's a lot of things that we don't know. We do know the cost of holding the approximately 7 years worth of ELDs, and we feel that we could be able to store all of those logs under a budget. If everybody did it all at once, then probably we couldn't. But if we would charge for something, we might charge maybe $7 or $10 for 7 or 10 years or something like 7 years or something like that. So we're only talking a few dollars a year worth of cost. But there's 250,000 drivers in Canada, and if everybody would do it, then yes, we would have to moderate. We'd have to charge for it. But initially, we're looking at not charging at all for it. A little bit depends on how many do it. Now, this, when it comes to a truck driver keeping their logbooks, there's an awful lot of them that go to their carrier with a USB stick and say, "Here, I'll store this at home on my home computer," or something like that. There's a fair bit of those. That's an awful lot of work for a carrier to say, "Okay, here's and plug it in here, and then we'll download this stuff," or whatever. There's got to be a better system for that. And the other thing on top of that, the guy's got to come in, 2-3 times a year to do that. But the realistically, it should be done automatically. And where it's going to get a little bit of a conflict, a driver should be ultimately responsible for that, because if you move from one carrier to another, and then 2 years later to another, and then a year later to another, a lot of the people who move around a little bit like that, they are very vulnerable to not getting access to anything. And that a lot of those transient people are way more vulnerable, and they have to think about it. Unfortunately, too often transient people don't think about their own vulnerabilities in the first place, but realistically, it's something that we want to provide a service to the Canadian truck drivers. There are some carriers who just say, "Thank you very much. This solves a problem for us," and we can do a lot of the storage and the retrieving of the information. They don't have to have human resources there trying to provide this for their drivers, and so it's a great service. Some carriers actually see the value that we're doing, and others, they don't care at all. They have zero inclination to do that. They're not even thinking along that lines. And then yet there's others that are even worse, where they think everybody is trying to take them down, and they're really paranoid. And so I'm not giving anybody out. It's all confidential information and stuff like this. And the trucking industry really is extremely competitive, and everybody stabs everybody in the back. That's sort of par for the course kind of a thing.
Industry standard.
Yeah, that's industry standard. But this is something where we want independence. We want the driver to own it, and we actually don't have access unless we are given access. And that's our goal, and along that lines. Now, there are some accountants out there that they used to, back when there were paper or whatever, they would store it for the driver. But nowadays with ELDs, I like technology for that aspect. It's actually much easier to storage.
Clicks of the button.
Yeah, a couple click and it's all there. Whereas before, you have 3 boxes for 3 years kind of a thing.
Yep.
And so yeah, things are changing, but realistically, it should be a good service. But ELD providers, generally speaking, whenever we talk to, I think 3 or 4 different services, for the most part, most of them have that data. But their relationship, the ELD providers, they have a relationship with their customer who is paying them, which is the carrier. And that's the relationship that they are looking. It's not totally up to them. Yeah. Because technically the way they would view it, the ELD logs is not something that they can give out without their customer giving out authorization for. So from what I understand, at least at this point, is that the carrier themselves have to give authorization to the ELD to release that information. I think probably if it would ever go to court, the ELDs, the ELD providers would have to give it to the driver, because I believe the actual ELDs are technically the property of the driver.
The driver, yeah.
But I don't know whether what the courts would say, but technically it is their property.
I think that's an area where drivers need to start changing a mind frame, because that's part of the trucking industry that I can leave at home. But because of what we're doing with what you're doing with taxes, that's a crucial part of you saving money. So that becomes ownership of your own personal tax saving receipt. So that's why the ELD needs to be specifically assigned to
or driver.
A designation to, because you own it. That's your personal information.
It should be.
It shows you your daily habits.
But not all carriers think that way.
No, that's right.
Most of them don't. We learned that at Truck World. The trucking companies.
Well, the ones that we interviewed there was only. We interviewed one guy who was the safety and compliance guy, who said 6 months, that's it, gone. And then they had the same guy at the human resource guy, the recruiter, and he was totally at odds with the safety and compliance guy. He says, these guys aren't supposed to be doing it, and they do not agree on it. So you can't have both represented at one company for sure. But I think the safety and compliance guy, generally speaking, has more authority than the recruiter, but I don't know. That could vary from carrier to carrier.
And I think that's where the mind frame of the owner operator or driver needs to know that, because the government CRA is going to hold me accountable for whatever I claim, I need to own all my receipts. And the ELD is part of my receipt declaration, which is crucial, that I've got to have in my virtual box, right?
What we want to do is provide automatic electronic retention. So it's not people going in there and doing anything,
right?
But it is programs that are written. They call it scraping, or one of the ways to do it is scraping. But you basically have a computer download it electronically, and they do it. They could do it on a daily basis if they want. Doesn't make a difference. But realistically, that way the driver has access to their own information. And the ELD people are okay with it, like I said, but the carriers, they have their own mind frame, and some, like I said, are totally okay with this, but others, not so much. It's still a relatively new thing. They've only been operating with it for a few years, So there's carriers that are switching from one provider to the next, back and forth. I don't like the way they do that, and so then they switch And then what happens if all of a sudden a carrier who's operated with ABC ELD people, and then okay, well, they're going to stop that contract, and now they're going to go. Well, what happens to all of that information? How long is it? Who has access to it? Does the driver have access to it anymore? There's all sorts of questions that some carriers aren't thinking through.
And I don't think it's been long enough that even the ELD companies realize, okay, I had a contract with this company for 7 months, and now they've terminated. How long do I
keep that information?
Am I legally obligated to keep that information for 7 years?
Yeah.
Because I no longer have a contract.
Correct.
Like, I don't think that there's any court processing that's even thought that far ahead.
I think there's probably most ELD providers have it in their contract that they'll do this and they'll do that, they'll provide it. But some of the information that is being, I can't remember. There's, what a gigabyte is. You know what a terabyte is.
Yeah, it's much bigger.
Much bigger. It's 1,000 times more. There's another one. I think it's either 1,000 times more or 10,000 times more. That one of our tech guys was saying. He was talking. He said, "Yeah, we have 3, whatever the
bigger one,
it's even larger ones. We have 3 of those, and we keep everything. We never delete anything." And I remember thinking that is a brutal volume of information, and like, which is good, which is nice, but 99% of it will never be accessed in the future, under general purposes. And I know from an ELD perspective, there's some sensitive information that's in there, dropped off, pick up, sometimes bill of ladings, all sorts of different things that could be put in there. And it under contract, I'm sure they all have their rules and regulations on there and stuff like this, just so long as the information is accessible. But now think about it, for instance, if XYZ trucking company has this employee, he's been there for 2-3 years, and he never asks for his e-logs or whatever. All of a sudden he does something stupid, whatever it is, and he gets fired. Well, if the carrier doesn't want to provide those logs, that guy is SOL. He's got nothing. How is he supposed to, other than a court case, how is he going to get his logs out of there? He's just hoping and praying he never gets audited by CRA.
Yeah,
that is a vulnerability, and we'd like to solve that problem.
Okay,
it's an issue.
Just logistically, it makes sense because the businesses, the drivers, like typically truck drivers are bouncing all over the place. But as far as, like I was saying before, they always have the same accountant. Like it's so difficult. Once a driver gets comfortable with an accountant, they're processing all their personal private information. You don't want to just go bounce around. Like, I can go make more money here. That makes sense to go. But and that's why
it'll be accessible. Like let's say, for instance, somebody downloads their app and then starts storing their stuff. I mean, they can have another accountant.
Yes,
he can. That driver can give the access to their accountant.
Yes,
so they can get all of that information. That's what we want to provide.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying though. The accountant has a legitimate needs an access.
Yes,
and you providing that service is not just a frivolous. Oh, this is just something really neat. It is cornerstone to part of your accounting. How you provide business.
This is probably one of the first things that we're branching out that is not really accounting related, because it's serving the entire trucking industry, and I'm not I'm not, I don't have any fees that are coming from it.
Right.
Okay? It's a lost leader is what they would call it. We're providing this service, and the probably the biggest thing that we want Making Your Miles Count to be the front of mind for every truck driver and independent operator in Canada. And you have to have these, what they would call a lost leader. We say, we want to provide this. And it really solves a problem for probably anywhere from 10 to 30% of every truck driver out there. Yeah. And able to do it, and not very many people have actually thought through the real process. We see it when people say, I don't have my logs, I don't work at that carrier anymore, and they won't return my calls, and blah blah. They go, now we have to go somewhere. And sometimes we have had audits that where we went through pay statements, and we recreated a log. And we had to make that defense to Canada Revenue Agency, and we've only had to do it once, but it worked, and they were okay with it. But we have corresponding calendars for the per diem system and stuff like that, so it's reasonable. It's a reasonable thing, but it's a brutal lot of work. I mean, you got to go through a whole year's worth of trips and stuff like that, and ooey-dooey. It is a fair bit of work involved, but it's an industry need that needs to be filled sooner or later. Absolutely. And we want to do it.
Might as well be on the forefront.
Yeah, might as well in there. So you did some research on a container, a plastic container that cost you $800, but the guy said it could only cost $50, but you had to buy a whole container of what's that?
Reservoirs. Coolant overflow reservoir.
Explain that one.
He had all the overflow tanks from any truck that's out there now.
Yeah.
And they were, I can't remember what I paid for mine. I thought it was around $800 that I paid for mine. And it's plastic, and they were selling them for $50.
Oh, wow.
Like you could order them through them, but
you had to buy it in volume, or did he change his story, or what happened?
Yeah, if I forget exactly how that went, but he wanted me to order a container load.
Oh yeah.
And I said, well, I'm not interested. I'm not becoming a dealer, and he couldn't speak English.
Oh, I see.
He had interpreted through his son, and still it wasn't getting through properly. But yeah, he wanted me to order a whole container load. I said,
"But you only have one truck."
I just want one. I don't have a fleet, and I'm not a. But I think he wanted me to be a dealer.
Oh yeah,
like that, and I wasn't interested in that.
Yeah, because he was the guy was out of China.
Yeah, there was a number of them from China.
Yeah, and they were mass producing many parts. Like you could get heads. And
that was the one across the way.
And blocks, anything and everything you could get in, but the key was in volume.
Yeah.
And that was the part of the issue, and the prices were ridiculously cheap.
Yeah.
And then we did find out that when we were talking to Dave's Diesel, he says, "Yeah, you can get cheaper things, but that's because they will pour you any mold, but they will mix the metals down to an appropriate financial level for you.
Yeah.
Like if you only want to pay $600, we'll only put $600 worth of metal in there.
Yeah.
But if you want a head that's going to last, well, then they change they put something else in there, pour it, and that one will last you, but it's going to cost you $10,000.
Yeah.
Well, where's my $600 one? Yeah, that's at a different foundry.
we have a friend. He's a farmer, and he buys a lot of stuff from China. And he'll buy bearings and stuff like this. And I was there a while because my son-in-law works for him. And he will buy a case, like a pallet of bearings, a very specific kind of bearing, because he he has a certain type of tractors and implements and stuff like this, and so he has a high amount of usage for XYZ bearing or something like this. So he buys a whole crate of them. And the reason is, well, two reasons. Number one is if he buys them at basically the dealers out here, he says he's paying $350 for one bearing. And he can get the identical same bearing for $35.
Exactly.
$30, something like that.
Yeah.
So why not buy a case, or why not buy, 4 years worth of stuff? So he buys a crate of it, and then he fills a whole container up with a whole bunch of miscellaneous stuff that is just a fraction of the cost, and then what he does is all of his neighbors who have this similar type of need of, they know that he has this bearing and this bearing and this. He has a list of probably 50 or 60 parts that he'll sell for a third of the price of retail, and the farmers love him. Third or half of the price, they love him, and he's making 4 or 5 times the value. So, yes, you could be a dealer, but you would have to specialize in overflow tanks and this and that, and you'd have to have 6 or 7 or 20 sea cans all carrying certain stuff, and then you'd have to open a website that would serve maybe 3 or 4 types of trucks, and you could do quite well if you get enough people coming to your site and doing it. It is possible, but you have to have inventory and cash and your clientele. So it sure gets your mind going what the possibilities are, because realistically, you talk to your mechanic who sold it to you for $800, and he more than likely spent $300 or $400 to purchase it. And that he's buying it from a middleman who has buying it from a middle, or whatever. And so there's a lot of people that can be taken out of the equation to make the margins good.
That networking is crucial, and but it's something that built over time, and trust.
Imagine, for instance, if you had you were a carrier and you had say 40, 50 trucks, and they were all identical trucks. And you say, okay, well, now we're going to start buying this and this and get everything in bulk. Not everything, but a good 60% of the stuff, and you could probably save quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah, if you've got a fleet of trucks and you have 10 parts that go regularly, to have an inventory of 20. That's not out of the, and if you think of the shop time and the order downtime and all of this, to have that on at your access, cuts your downtime. And sure, it's a little bit of a headache and an investment.
There's also dealerships do that too. They can sometimes buy in bulk, and they say, well, we go through, a Peterbilt or a Freightliner or a Kenworth dealership says, you know what, this is a part that we constantly, let's just buy a shipment of it and keep your costs down.
Your shop that you go to fairly often, they could start, if they wanted to, they could start looking at stuff like that and say, you know what, I'm going to fill up a container load. I need 100 of these, 50 of these, 30 of these, and just go through their history and figure out, we can make a container load. And then the next time it's something like that comes through, they're saving themselves and their customer 20%, 30%.
Well, that's like this guy was saying, that either he has half a container or a full container, the shipping is the same.
The shipping is the same,
So you might as well fill it up.
Fill it up.
And then the other thing, too, he was saying sometimes, he makes sort of these custom things where it's in farming, you make things much bigger than what is originally designed for. And so he'll draw something to spec and send it out to China, and they'll put it all together, and they communicate back and forth, and then they make it, and then they send it, and they say, oh, well, we have to change this, and then, yeah, okay, now we go, and he gets things custom made, and then once it works or whatever, then he'll do a little bit in bulk, and so he does a lot of custom things. Now it takes him, months to get something, but I mean, farmers, they get paid, once a year, basically September, October, November, and then all through the winter they're doing all of these things, repairing their stuff or whatever. The workload is cyclical, and so they can do some stuff like this, But man, when you go to a truck show like this and you see physically, hey, my goodness, I had experience, $800, and now I could do it for $50. Look at the possibilities, you know.
But the problem is with something like that, if it goes on the road, well, and you have one sitting at home, it doesn't help.
You need a parts trailer behind your trailer.
I guess in theory, though, you could purelate something anywhere for $20-$30 overnight.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you'd still save hundreds.
Wow.
I never thought of that.
Are the transportation costs? Like, you remember 25, 35 years ago, when you went to a machine shop or when you went to a dealership or something like that, everybody had parts for everything.
Yeah.
Now they have a computer system. It says, no, we are out of it, but Calgary has 2 and Lethbridge has 1.
Yeah.
We'll get the one from Calgary. It'll be here on Tuesday. That's how they do. That's how they manage inventory to these things, and so nobody has the things all in stock anyway.
Yeah. Well, the shop where I get some of my work done, those guys stock almost anything.
Oh, really?
I needed an airbag for my sleeper and a leveling valve.
Oh,
they had it in stock.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they must have
they
regular
have a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
So
this is a little bit off. No, shipping is what this is about. I still haven't wrapped my brain around it. My wife, she was on the internet the other day and she ordered a package of meat, like custom packaged. She thought, oh, let's try it. She wanted out of Brampton. She ordered it. Within 26 hours, it was at our front door. Out of Brampton. I said, no, they've got to have a warehouse in Winnipeg. The packaging label on the box.
Was that meat?
Meat.
Fresh meat.
Fresh meat.
Not frozen?
No. Frozen meat.
Okay.
But it was shipped in dry ice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But from when she placed the order till when it was at our door was 26 hours.
That's incredible.
It's a 24-hour drive. If you even with flights and coordinating from a place to the airport, fly to Winnipeg, from Winnipeg to our door. Can you do that in 26 hours?
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing.
That is absolutely. I still have not quite wrapped my brain around it because we, small shipping company that I work for, we're pretty quick. We can respond really quickly.
Yeah.
Flights, you got a one-way flight and 2 door-to-door connections.
Yep.
That's 26 hours.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Nova Scotia, they ship their lobster all over the world in less than 26 hours.
Yeah.
She said a maximum of 26 hours.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
They fly it all over the world.
Trucking industry, transportation industry is amazing.
Yep.
The volume and the efficiencies. And
until you get a ship caught sideways in the Suez Canal or something, then everything goes. Then it all goes sideways, right?
Yeah. South, not north.
But no, anyways.
Anyway, great conversation, guys. Truck World, if you ever want to go, by all means, if it interests you, it's a fabulous time to go. To actually enter by itself is $20. We did provide individuals if they contacted us. Because we were an exhibitor, we were allowed to give individuals free access prior to a certain date or so. But it's an excellent industry specific show, and it is by far the largest in Canada. It is extremely big.
Yep.
In there, but that being said, we enjoyed ourselves an awful lot.
Yeah,
had a lot of
I've never been to one, and it actually I never really thought of specifically going to. I drive truck. I don't build trucks. I don't. It didn't equate that I might.
Was it worth the time that you took?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, yeah, very educational.
And I'd love to. It's even opened the door to. I think I'd like to try going to see some of those big ones in the U.S.
Oh yeah.
Like apparently they're just even bigger than Toronto.
Oh yeah.
But
Louisville.
Yeah, apparently that's ridiculous. It's opened my mind to even that option. But because there's so much cool, interesting, new, just
things that you never think of.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah.
We learned a lot.
I'll tell you, Make Your Miles Count. We're trying to have podcasts that really help independent operators, and hopefully some of our rabbit trails have inspired you. If you wanted to go to Truck World, by all means, we ask you plan for it. They only come around once every 2 years, so it was a great experience for us. I hope it's been a real treat for you and inspired you or so. Have yourself a great trip.
Thanks for stopping by Making Your Miles Count. For further Making Your Miles Count productions, call us at 877-987-9787 or download us at makingyourmilescount.com.